let's talk a little bit about AEW. Let's talk a little bit about Nyla Rose. I think we should talk about that first. Val Venis, look, I don't think you could blame it on the weed. I think people need to understand. When Sandman complained about women main eventing wrestling, all right, he is an old school guy. He is from back in the day. That doesn't make him a bigot. That doesn't make him a sexist. He's looking at it that it was a male-dominated sport. It is a male soap opera. And I think I'm not trying to defend Sandman, but the only logic I could come out of it, because I disagreed with pretty much most of what he said, I think is that some promotions force the issue with women. And when it feels forced, that's when it's a turnoff. I don't think anybody should feel forced simply because they want to, feel that they're part of the evolution. No, you do what your target audience is. At the end of the day, it's a business. It's an entertainment company. You have different forms of entertainment out there that target mostly women. Trust me. From when my girl watches the Real Ghetto Housewives of Atlanta, I can't stand that show, and I see her chatting on social media with her friends. Did you see what Mimi did, or this, and that did? And I look at the chats, and it's 98% women. Right? That's a type of show that's targeted of women. There are shows out there, I think like The Bachelor, is probably more towards women. The Bachelorette might be the opposite. So there's different groups. And as much as people want women to have an equal playing field in wrestling, fans, revenue, attendance, merchandise, sales, and income is going to dictate that, not agenda. You just, and I've used the example with the NBA, all right? I mean, I don't see people saying, there should be more white basketball players in the NBA. You know why there should be when there should be more white basketball players in the NBA? When they could fucking play as good as their counterparts. If they're talented and they can play, then they'll play. But it's common knowledge that a lot of white guys don't play basketball. They tend to go to football, or they go to baseball, or they just sit on Twitter and, tweet a fake life for 10 years. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. Every product out there has a target audience. So now we go back to Val Venis, okay? I don't think Val Venis hates transgender. I don't think he hates gays. I don't think he has any problem with any of those groups. But he's very ignorant in the sense that, and you could see it as his conversations progress. I don't think he has hate in his heart, but he, as a man, is getting frustrated that a man who's transgendered now won a women's title. And I said this a couple of times last week. I didn't hear anybody bitch and complain when China won the Intercontinental title. I didn't see anybody bitch and complain when Nia Jax was, messing around with the men a little bit and brawling a little bit. If there's anybody out there that should be annoyed at Nia Jax winning a women's championship, it should be women. Because the women are the ones that are vying for these titles, with the exception of Tessa Blanchard right now for the most part. And the most funniest, weirdest thing I noticed over the last week is that about 98% of the people complaining about Nyla Rose winning the women's championship were men. Men complaining about a women's title. Just let that sink in a little bit. But here's where Val Venis totally screwed up. And here's where, unfortunately, with all due respect, I just got to show everybody in his own words why he's pretty ignorant. This was the first tweet that started it all. Val Venis, WWE drops the women's from the women's title. Well, they technically did not do that, but they did it. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, even if WWE does that, so what? It's semantics. It's semantics. If they say the following contest is for the NXT championship and a woman comes out, all right, in 3 seconds, it's been cleared up. Oh, it's for the women's match. I mean, people that are getting triggered on the omission of a word is just foolish. You have too much free time in the day. So then he says, Impact makes a woman the world heavyweight champion. AEW makes a man the women's champion. Who the fuck are these insane social justice warriors with pencils and papers ruining the industry he loves so much? So right there, he thinks the industry is being ruined because of that. All right, that's his thinking. Now, again, as he went along and he's being challenged and really ripped apart with this, you know, he's trying to defend himself saying, look, I don't hate this and that, but it just shows the ignorance. It just doesn't show the evolution of what's going on in this world. Wrestling is not being ruined because a transgender won the championship. And I'm going to say something later that nobody will have a comeback to. Trust me when I tell you. It'll be worth it, everyone. It'll be worth it because it's such a common sense remark, two of them. It just, you'll win an argument every time with this. So now, you know, he sets the stage and he's pissed. You could see the frustration in him being pissed. So now Nyla Rose, you know, has the title and he writes this. Fact, the big Valboski is far more tolerant of the trans community, Nyla Rose, in fairness, than the delusional social justice warriors of the freedom of speech. So basically he's saying he's saying almost like, you know, when I say you don't justify bad behavior with other bad behavior, you know, if someone else is an asshole, doesn't mean that you should be an asshole. If you're acting like an asshole, you don't write off and say, well, these other people are just as much assholes. No, you know, you set an example. You keep your mouth shut. Then he writes, I'd make a man out of Nyla Rose in short order. Do I think anything was malicious? No. He probably thought, like, if you're in the ring, I'll make a man out of you. I'll make this. So he probably thought it sounded cool as a wrestling promo, but you already set the tone with your first tweet saying that Tessa is the Impact Heavyweight Champion, Nyla is the Women's Champion for AEW, is ruining wrestling. So there is your problem there. So now he's fallen in a little bit of quicksand. Then he writes this. Oh, that's the same one. Then he writes this. Real men sit back in awe and appreciate a man's work rate. So what does he do? He puts himself over. And Cody did a conference call last week, and he was asked about Val Venis's tweets, and he thinks that Val Venis wrote all that maybe to try to get a job or maybe to try to do a segment with Nyla Rose and get his ass kicked. No, I don't think so. That first tweet, when he feels it's ruining the industry, that's more than just trying to get your name for a cameo or a little payday. And Cody, again, I don't blame Cody for this, and I've hopefully educated you for the last year or so about Cody. Cody is going to be very PC about everything. Somebody asked him in the conference call last week, you know, what about more black singles wrestlers in AEW? Now, seriously, I'm not saying this to sound like a jerk, but seriously, what do you expect Cody to say to that? No, we're good. We're good. Of course he's going to say, yeah, no, we welcome, we love this, we love that. Anything that's going to be embraced. Oh, you know, do you think, you know, well, AEW, you know, you're going to have a show in California. Well, you know, springtime is nice in California. They're not going to say no. Oh, you know, you should have more, you know, transgender or gay, openly gay and this and that. Yeah, we welcome everybody. AEW is welcome for everybody. You say things that come off the right way. Again, that's why I defended Tessa Blanchard in her conference call. When they asked her about what Booker T said, that, you know, pretty much an Impact was nuts putting the championship on her, she basically said, look, I have a job to do, and I'm doing what Impact Wrestling is paying me to do, and I'm doing it for the best of my ability. You got all these whack job losers online saying, oh, cop out, she dodged it, cop out. What do you expect her to say? Yeah, you're right. You know, Impact Wrestling, you're nuts with putting a belt on me. Why would you do that? That's so stupid. What do you expect her to say? When I had that little issue with Bully Ray, when Tito Ortiz debuted in TNA back then, and that's the only way I could put the time frame because he debuted like 2 weeks after. And, you know, I was criticizing the TNA product, and, you know, he got annoyed me. Everything's all crushed now. But the point is that, you know, he wanted a challenge to go in the ring. and, you know, bring him on the show and this and that. Of course he was going to own me. Of course he was going to rip me to pieces, you know, verbally and hopefully not physically. But my point is that I even said it to him privately. I'm like, look, I'm not stupid. Do you think I expect you, even if you agree that Tito Ortiz's debut in TNA was a complete disaster? Nobody in TNA is going to say, yeah, you're right, that was freaking horrible. Yeah, that's why when podcasters, and I notice this now and I stay clear away from it, I see podcasters online that will challenge people in wrestling with certain things, negative about their product. And those people, whatever promotion it is, they ignore them. And then you see these podcasters, and I'm not going to ruin a nice Matt Hardy shirt, but I would literally rip this shirt off like Hulkamania and start doing this. I honestly think in the privacy of their own home with no cameras around, they're doing this. They're flexing like, I showed him. He don't have a comeback. He won't even acknowledge it, blah, blah, blah. No, you're an idiot, because they're not going to turn around and say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, my employer, what are they thinking? Nobody would do that. So Cody saying, oh, Val Venis just wants a payday. It's him being nice. So, you know, easy answer. You move on from it. But it's much deeper than this. So now you got Val Venis doing that. Here's where Val Venis just loses it. And here's where everybody out there that has a problem with Nyla Rose as that champion right now, here's where you lose the argument. He says this, and please focus on this. He says, I have nothing against Nyla Rose. I'm against her/him occupying the women's title. There are real women who are pushed aside and forgotten about, who should have won scholarships for track and field, powerlifting, other sports, because a few men felt like women. Paint your own narrative. And he brings the example of the 3 female high school athletes that filed a federal lawsuit to block transgender from competing in their competition. Now, keep that thought, because now we get into Rebby Hardy a little bit. And before we do that, here's another one. This is where somebody confronted him about saying making a man out of Nyla Rose. He's like, oh, I just thought it would sound cool. No, it didn't sound cool. But here's where it gets really good. He writes, the factual subjugation of women is ignored by default by leftist morons, yet they scream pro-women's rights. Delusional they are. Now, him talking about transgender in sports, if he wants to make that argument, okay, he can make that argument. But he puts Nyla Rose in there, okay? And, you know, I'm not even going to acknowledge, you know, him accusing the stuff with Jim Ross. But anyway, here's the last part of it. Rebby basically said, hey, Val, your Uber is arriving now, and she's got a picture of a dump truck. And Val Venis writes, Rebby Sky seems to willfully ignore injustice against real women while coddling the feelings of a man and his social justice subjugating real women. And then he brings up the U.S. Olympics, all right? Now, here's where he gets it wrong. First of all, pro wrestling is not the Olympics. Pro wrestling is not a sport. It is entertainment. It is sports entertainment. It is predetermined. So his argument that men are competing in women's Olympics and women's sports has nothing to do with pro wrestling, because pro wrestling is an entertainment. It is a form of entertainment. God bless Ring of Honor. I think it was Joe Koff who said it back then. You know, we're not an entertainment company. We're real wrestling, real sport. No, son of a bitch. No, if your match outcomes are predetermined, you are an entertainment company. Your form of entertainment seems more realistic than the flippy and the penis plexes and all this other stuff, but you are an entertainment company. So you cannot take real sports, real Olympics, and then commingle that with an entertainment company. And here is where I shred, and I'm sorry for cursing, but here's why I shred his fucking argument. Okay, you know, Nyla Rose is taking a spot because of the size and the strength and the testosterone, and that's not fair for the women's division. Okay, genius. First of all, what happens if Nyla Rose faces Nia Jax? Look at Nia Jax's physique and look at Nyla Rose. Tell me what the difference is other than maybe genitalia. If Nia Jax is in the ring against Riho and Nia Jax destroys Riho in a match, tell me what's so different about Nyla Rose. And here's the best part. Here's the best part. I loved it. I couldn't believe that nobody, no podcast, no nothing, because they're all busy trying to get tweet banked. Here's the best part, my argument. Val, so you're saying that Nyla Rose should be the AEW heavyweight champion? How would you feel if Nyla Rose won the men's heavyweight championship? Something tells me that, so you're saying that Nyla Rose, she shouldn't go for the women's title, but because she's technically a man, she should. Notice how nobody ever thought of that. Nyla Rose is working for an entertainment company. She is portraying a woman. In movies, you might have someone portraying a superhero. We've had white people portray black people portray white people. We've had, men portray women, not betray, but portray women. You have people, but I mean, it's an entertainment company. Nyla Rose is a beast. Her promo today I thought was great. She was on AEW earlier, and I have the comments right in front of me. And she gets on the microphone, and she says, I got it over here. Here it is. She said, this is justice. Waiting made her hungry, and when she gets hungry, she breaks bitches. And she broke Rio. She represents power, and at the end of the day, this Queen Bee is the queen of the hive in AEW. She'll be a one-time champion because no one will ever beat her. All right. So again, genius, what happens if that was Nia Jax? It's okay because she's got breasts and a vagina. She's probably bigger than Nyla Rose. So this argument that, well, men with the Olympics, because they're more superior and they're bigger and they're stronger and they're faster. Tell me what the difference is between Nia Jax and Nyla Rose. That's why these people out there really need to find other lines of work to work. I thought he was selling weed legally somewhere. Maybe he sells weed pipes or something. And I'm nothing against Val Venis personally. He entertained the shit out of me over the years. But this argument of taking an entertainment product and trying to compare it to real sports, it just doesn't make sense. Because you've had behemoths like Bertha Faye. You've had behemoths like Awesome Kong. You mean to tell me if Awesome Kong, that's different. You're complaining about genitalia. No argument there. Turn around the next time any of you have an argument with someone, say, tell me what's the difference if Nia Jax wins? And when they start bringing up, well, Nia Jax was born as a woman. But it's an entertainment company. And then say, okay, so you say Nyla Jax should be the heavyweight champion right now, not the women. Oh, no, she saw it. Just a horrible argument, stupid, dumb, moronic, in my opinion. Look, this is an opinion show. I have to keep stressing that. And that's my opinion. I think what he said is shallow. And what's sad about it, everybody, is if you look over the last 7 days, a lot of people out there were echoing what Val Venis was saying. And sometimes, I don't think Cody and AEW put it on Nyla Rose right now because she's transgender. They wanted a monster. I honestly think Awesome Kong was probably going to be in that role because she started to get that push, and then the whole Nightmare Collective thing went downhill, and then she went back to do Glow, and they said, all right, you know what? We're going to focus on Nyla Rose now. So I have no problem with this whatsoever. And, it's funny, too, to see some people out there that try to get involved in the conversation simply because they just want to get attention. They don't like AEW. They can't stand Nyla Rose. They think Nyla Rose sucks on the mic, sucks in the ring. They rip the product almost the entire show week after week after week. No, you're not entitled to be involved in this conversation about giving Nyla Rose the Women's AEW Championship because you don't follow the product. You're not a fan of it. Me, I want to be involved in this. Why? Because you're left out of the conversation. So, and you know what with Val Venis, and you see this with a lot of people online, their first reaction is usually the most honest. Sometimes some people tweet and delete, but delete. But usually the first comment you make is your most honest. Like CM Punk. You see what happened with Miz? And he made that really horrible remark to Miz simply because Miz made a joke on WWE backstage. I don't think CM Punk was so mad at what Miz said. I think what triggered CM Punk was all the women in the background going, ha, 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 ha. That's, I think, what triggered him. And then he deleted it. You know, your split-second reaction is usually your most honest. And, you know, it's a shame. It's a shame. But putting the belt on Nyla Rose now, with what's going on online, you probably extended her run a little bit longer, probably than originally planned, because, you know, the AEW is not going to bow down to, you know, people online. And it's amazing to see so many people online that when someone tweets a suicide hotline, they'll retweet it, and they'll, you know, talk about all this stuff. When there's a tragedy, you know, thoughts and prayers, I'm crying right now, I'm aching, I'm hurting. But the first minute they get, when there's a really raw, triggered reaction, they do a 180 and write the garbage that you have read over the last week. And you see the hypocritical personality. I mean, you see, it's funny. The best part is, there was, unfortunately, someone who killed themselves very recently, an actress in the UK. And, you know, I didn't know anything about her. I don't remember her name. Maybe someone in the chat could bring it up. But I saw so many people online that were talking about why, you know, you can't just make fun of people, and you can't assume that someone has thick skin and this and that and blah, 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 blah. But yet, you know, a lot of those same people were making fun of all the guys going on an AEW cruise, making fun of people that do this. So what you're saying is you should never individually hurt someone's feelings, but you should just do it to a whole group of people. Yeah, that makes it better. That makes it better. So, anyway.